This is City Council, Beaumont City Council. Today is today is Tuesday, September 15, 2020. And I will open this for to order at 5:02. Roll call, please. Nicole?
Councilmember White is absent at the moment. Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember Carroll?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Here.
Mayor Santos?
Here. Okay, is there any public comment on this closed session? Nicole?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No one's on the line.
Okay, very good. We will move on, and City Attorney, Mr. John Pickney, can you read the items for closed session discussion, please?
Yes, the council will be meeting in closed session. Item number 1 is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city designated representatives, City Manager Todd Parton and Administrative Services Director Kerry Mendoza. The employee organizations are the Beaumont Police Officers Association. Item number 2 is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title is City Manager, and that is the annual evaluation of the City Manager. Item number 3, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representatives, Lloyd White and Mike Lara, unrepresented employee, City Manager. And again, that's an annual event. And then item number 4, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. The matter is Christian Lee versus City of Beaumont, case number RIC 2003005. And that's the items for closed session this evening.
Very good, thank you. Okay, we will adjourn to a closed session at 5:04.
Okay, so we don't need to, we just stay on this line, right? Okay. And you'll transfer the, okay.
get there. We are. Like to pace ourselves.
Hey Todd, I can't, my wife keeps asking me to ask you. I'm not looking for an answer right now. She wants to know what the water schedule is for the, for that easement. That's water. Oh, yeah. Just so I can say I asked you. They came out and cleared everything off. It's starting to clean up again, but.
Nancy, can you lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance?
I think she wants to be able to know windage. If it's like at 2 in the morning.
Nancy, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. I just put my earbuds in.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can you lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance later on? You're good? Pledge allegiance.
I'm good,
Okay.
Mayor.
We are back, and this is the City of Beaumont City Council. Today is Tuesday, September 15, 2020, and I will call this meeting to order at 6:12. Roll call, please, Nicole.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Martinez,
Here.
Councilmember Carroll,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara,
Here.
Mayor Santos.
Here. Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. John Pickney, could you read out from closed session the items
Yes.
discussed?
Yes, Your Honor. The council met in closed session. Item 1 was conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. City designated representative, City Manager Todd Barton, and Administrative Services Director Carrie Mendoza. The employee organization, the Beaumont Police Officers Association, there was no reportable action on that item. And then item 2 was public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, titled City Manager. This is the annual evaluation of the city manager. There was no reportable action on that item. And that item, along with item number 3, are going to be picked up again for a continued closed session at the end of the council open session meeting. And then item number 4 was conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. Christian Lee versus City of Beaumont, case number 2003005. There was reportable action taken in closed session. Mr. Laura made a motion to defend the action that's been filed against the city. Mr. White seconded that motion, and the votes were unanimous in favor of defending, with Councilmember Laura, White, Carroll, Martinez, and Mayor Santos all voting to defend against the action. And so that's the conclusion of the report out from closed session.
Very good. Thank you. For the record, Council White came in on the closed session, his presence on that, and then seems like all the council are present. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Nancy, can you lead us, please? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval adjustment to the agenda, if any, and any conflict of interest disclosure. It's like none. Announcements, recognition, proclamations, correspondence, if any, There's none right now. Okay, public comment period. Items not on the agenda on this. So, due to current circumstances, we are encouraging members of the public to maintain participation in our meetings by using the following options: email comments, phone-in comments, and in-person subject to applicable health orders. All of the details for this option can be found on the front of the agenda and will also be displayed on your screen throughout the meetings. Do we have any public comments on this, Nicole?
I have no written comments. Olivia, do we have anyone on the line?
There are no callers.
Okay, very good. So we move on the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are taken as one action item unless an item is pulled for further discussion here or at the end of the action items. Approval of all ordinances and resolution to be read by title only. Are there any items that need to be pulled for discussion from item 1 to 5 to 10 on this? Council? If
Mayor,
you-
I'll make a
okay.
motion to approve items 1 through 6 on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Santos?
Yes. Okay, let's move on the public hearings we have. Approval of all ordinances and resolution to be read by title only. On item 7 of this public hearing and first reading to consider rules of procedure for all meetings of the City Council and its appointed boards and counties, amending the current rules of procedure established in Beaumont Municipal Code, Section 2.04. Staff report, please. Nicole?
I will just introduce this and then I will pass this off to the city attorney. This is the first reading of the proposed ordinance, and council can make changes for it to come back for a second hearing. And this would amend Chapter 2.04 of Title 2 regarding the rules and procedures for council meetings. And I'll let John.
Your Honor, if I may, I made an effort in this document. You recall at the last meeting, we had the back and forth discussion. You had a draft document, working document in front of you as a council. And so at the September 1st meeting, you provided input, suggestions. And so what I did was I made an effort to address the proposed changes to that draft document where there appeared to be consensus by the council. And then I took notes of the conversation and the comments by the council members. And so I made revisions to the municipal code and this ordinance. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the changes that have been made to the rules since the last time that we went over them. I will point out, though, that one area where there was discussion, where I did not hear clear council direction, was on the topic of cell phone usage during council meetings. So the ordinance that's presented to you this evening doesn't address that issue. However, tonight, this is the first reading. And so if you reach consensus on any changes or additions that you want to make, we can do that by way of a motion to waive the reading and approve the ordinance with the proposed amendments or changes. And then it would be in final form at the second reading when it comes back to you the second time. And we cannot change it at that point if we want it to become effective within 30 days. Normally, after the second reading, the ordinance would become effective 30 days thereafter. So tonight, if you want to stay on the track that we're on to get this completed at the next meeting, and have the ordinance effective 30 days thereafter, you as a council need to provide any input or suggested changes that you have to the document this evening. So I'm going to try to be brief in my comments and just point out the substantive changes that were made. And I'm going to start with section 2.04.030, if you turn to that. And what we're doing is we're amending chapter 2.04 of the Municipal Code. And in that section, previously, the language stated that no notice would be given for regular meetings. And I understand the intent of that was that council wouldn't get any kind of special notice for meetings that were regular meetings, which are set by resolution of the council. And so here, I just took the liberty to make a change there to clarify that notice of council meetings shall be given in compliance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, as may be amended from time to time as required by California law. And then the next change is in section 2.04.040. The city council shall utilize Rosenberg's Rules of Order, simple parliamentary procedure for 21st century as guidance for parliamentary procedure for all city council meetings. The Beaumont Planning Commission and other city council created commissions and committees that are required to hold open meetings in compliance with the Ralph M. Brown Act. And I modified the next two words. Previously, what it said was they shall conduct their meetings in accordance with Rosenberg's. Now it says they shall utilize Rosenberg's Rules of Orders as guidance for parliamentary procedure during their respective meetings. And then if we go to just a minor change at the end of section 2.04.050, that deals with the presiding officer, and largely that remains the same. But you'll recall that we had some discussion about the last paragraph of that section that deals with disorderly conduct at council meetings and how we deal with that after warning individuals that are engaging in that conduct. The only change that I made there was at the very end of that paragraph, I added Government Code section 36813. We already had reference to Government Code section 54957.9, and now we also have 36813. And that gives statutory authority to the council to punish any individual for disorderly behavior at a council meeting. So it's just beefing up the statutory authority that already exists. And then turning to section 2.04.090, most of that remains unchanged until we get down to subsection I. And this deals with the selection of the mayor, and it says the selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem must be ratified by 3 affirmative votes. Previously, it said that a majority vote with all council members present would be required, and you'll recall we had some discussion about how that wording might be abused by individuals refusing to show up for the meeting. And so having that language requiring all council members to be present could be problematic. And so we changed that to 3 affirmative votes. So the selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem must be ratified by 3 affirmative votes. And then previously what it said was that if the mayor and mayor pro tem failed to get a majority vote of the council could disregard the process and select any council member to fill the position subject to majority vote approval. And now what it provides is if the mayor or mayor pro tem fail to receive 3 affirmative votes, they retain their current position in the rotation, and the office would pass to the next council member on the list, subject to ratification by 3 affirmative votes. This process continues until a mayor and mayor pro tem are ratified by 3 affirmative votes. So previously, the rules were thrown out the window and you could do whatever you want. You made it clear as the council you didn't like that. And so this has you continue down the rotation process until you reach an agreement on placing a mayor and mayor pro tem. And then, of course, the mayor and mayor pro tem are seated in their positions immediately after they've been approved by 3 affirmative votes of the council. The next change is section K, right below what we just read, was added. And the council, I think most, if not all of you, expressed a desire to have this type of language in the rules of procedure. So it now provides that a council member may serve as mayor or mayor pro tem a total of 2 years during a 4-year term of office on the council, but shall not serve as mayor or mayor pro tem in consecutive years. So the next change is section 2.04.110. And this deals with appointment of council members to boards and commissions of outside agencies. And previously, it had provided that the mayor or mayor pro tem could make the appointments, and this is really a privilege of the mayor. And so I removed the mayor pro tem language, and so these appointments would be made by the mayor. And I'll just read through this. At the first regular council meeting in January of each year, the mayor shall appoint members to boards and commissions of outside agencies in the manner provided herein. At said meeting, the mayor shall announce the board or commission for which nominations will be considered and invite nominations from the council. Once all nominations have been received for the specified position, the mayor shall close nominations. If only one council member is nominated to a specified position, the mayor shall appoint that council member to said board or commission. In the event more than one council member is nominated for a specified position, the mayor shall ask the nominees if they are willing to serve in the specified position. If a council member declines to serve, the council member's nomination shall be withdrawn. The council shall hold a discussion or receive statements from nominees where multiple willing council members have been nominated for a specified position. Thereafter, the mayor shall make an appointment to the specified position from among the willing nominees. This process shall be continued until all open positions on boards and commissions of outside agencies are filled. If no nominations are received for a particular board or commission, the mayor may appoint a council member to fill the position. So I believe that reflects the direction that was given at the last council meeting. The next section with changes is section 2.04.120 on the mayoral responsibilities. We added section E, which includes that the mayor is to appoint individuals to ad hoc committees. The mayor serves as the primary spokesperson of the council in communications with the press. And G, signs all letters authorized by and on behalf of the council. And then we go to section 2.04.130. And we added section H. And this goes to a comment that was raised by Mayor Santos, who had expressed a desire that we have council members focus on what's best for the city as opposed to personal agendas. And so it now provides that council members shall work in furtherance of the city's best interests, and that would be as opposed to acting solely for their personal agendas or personal interests. And then I'm going to come back to, at the end of this, I'm going to come back to section 2.04.130 C, because I have a suggestion, but I wanted to get into that after I've gone through all the changes. And then we added a section 2.04.140 for council member vacancies. You wanted to have some clarity on the process for selecting individuals to fill council member vacancies. And under California law, that vacancy has to be filled within 60 days. You can either call a special election or you can choose to fill that vacancy by appointment. And so this provision now provides that in the event of a vacancy on the city council, the council shall fill the vacancy within 60 days of its occurrence in compliance with and subject to the limitations set forth in the applicable provisions of the government code. In the event the city council chooses to fill the vacancy by appointment, the mayor shall invite qualified individuals to apply for the vacant position. At a public meeting held in compliance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, the council shall interview applicants for the vacant position. Upon completion of the applicant interviews, the mayor shall request nominations for the vacant council positions. Once all nominations have been received for the vacant position, the mayor shall close nominations and a vote shall be taken on the nominations in the order received. This process shall continue until such time as a nominee receives 3 affirmative votes of the council. Upon a nominee receiving 3 affirmative council member votes, the nominee shall be sworn into office and assume the vacant council position. So now, so that concludes the changes, and now I want to go back up to section 2.04.130 because this was the area where I didn't feel that I got clear direction from the council on what you wanted to do. It currently provides, and previously provided, the council member shall C, be attentive to others and limit interruptions and distractions. You could add to that and avoid use of cell phones during council meetings. So I think that language, if somebody had an emergency or something like that, it would give some flexibility, but that they would avoid use of cell phones during council meetings. And we discussed briefly at the last council meetings the risks of texting during council meetings. You could inadvertently have a violation of the Brown Act if one council member is communicating with another about an agenda item, and then that council member communicates with a third council member. You could have a seriatim meeting in violation of the Brown Act. My sense is, I'm not sitting up where you're sitting, but my sense is we haven't had a significant problem with that, but your perceptions may be different. If there was discussion about this at the last meeting, if there is an interest in including language, that might be the area to do it. In subsection C, just adding some language at the end, as I outlined, and we can do that this evening if there's a desire to do so, and then you would get the final document back to you at the next council meeting at the second reading. And that's my report.
Very good, John. Thank you. And we will open, this public hearing to the public at 6:34. Is there any comment on this, public comment?
I have no written comments. Olivia, do we have anyone on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay, very good. So I will close the public hearing at 6:34. And it's open for discussion, council. Go ahead, Councilor Julio Martinez.
Yeah, so I want to thank you, John. It's a very clean copy, and that was my first comment that I wrote down when I read it over. Is it was easy reading, it was easy to follow, it was clear, it wasn't cumbersome with words. So I appreciate the reworking of that. I think it really hit the nail on all the sections. So thank you for that. The only thing I wrote down referred to that cell usage, and I agreed because I wrote down on my notes that C would be a place to put that if we decided we wanted to. And it could be as something as limiting the use of cell phone while on the dais or something like that. Just very simple, not prohibiting, but limiting. It's a part of the distraction clause in there. So I thought that might be a good place to put it if we agree on that. So thank you for your suggestion. It actually coincided with mine. But, I want to hear what the others have to say about that. But other than that, I'm very pleased. I think everything hit it right on, including the rotation of the mayor. And I'm really pleased with it. So I appreciate it.
I would just add to that, consider the fact that at some point you all are going to be off the council and members of the public. And if you came to a meeting and you were speaking to the council and the mayor and they were up there texting away, it might be a kind of a frustrating experience. So, I mean, there are exceptions to using cell phones when you have emergencies or what have you. But, generally you want the council focused on what's occurring in the council meeting.
That's correct. That would be unprofessional. Go ahead, Council Nancy Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. John, I really think you did a great job with writing this up. I appreciate you adding the language that we need for council member vacancies. I think that was an important clarity that you added to it, and I appreciate that. You wound through your notes so clearly. You ended up parsing what we said and putting it down pretty accurately. I'm going to address the cell phone usage on the dais, especially since, of course, I was the one that brought it up. So I still have some feelings and input on that. And after the last meeting, I took to heart what some of the council members said, and I went and did some more looking up of comments on OpenGov, comments and changes other cities have done. And then I also sat back and tried to reflect on all of the changes that we've done over the last 6 years, and how much part all of us have been in that on the dais and elsewhere in the room, I might add. But the first thing that came to mind is the transparency issue. And we've all been really, really strongly supporting making sure that everything that we do is as transparent as is possible. And not only has the integrity of people on the dais made that a really strong issue that we wanted to move ahead, but also we were listening to the community. And the community was wondering if there were a lot of things like side deals going on and, things that weren't on the up and up. So in the spirit of that transparency, and in some of the things I've seen in conversations other cities have had on this issue, it's kind of bringing the transparency up to the digital age to say that there's limitations on digital devices when you're on the dais. And that seemed to be a thread I saw running through a lot of updated procedures and policies in other cities. Also, I might add that we can always shrug our shoulders and say, let's just kick the can down the road, and this can always be modified later. Well, sometimes when you have change in councils, they don't really want to push as hard as we push for transparency. Their standards may not be quite as critically high as we tried to maintain. It's on our plate now to change the policies. Our likelihood of doing it in 6 months and again in a year and again in a year and a half is pretty unlikely. So I think doing it right is very important right now. And I have looked into how it's been worded in other cities that have made changes. And what they have said is that texting is not allowed on the dais unless it's an emergency. Now, I'm not trying to be overly conservative about that, because do I appreciate the benefit of being able to text somebody in the room and say, is this room hot? Would you change the temperature, rather than to interrupt the meeting to say it? Yeah, all right. I've done that. But and you're right, John, you brought up a visual that I've had very much in mind. What if 2 or 3 members on the dais were all texting while a critical issue is being discussed? The public impression, from what I've seen in comments in other cities, is that the council members are not paying attention. And out of respect for who we represent by that seat on the dais, I say, as cumbersome as it may be for some of us individually, we should consider strongly changing it, and I support changing it. I also want to add that, I took to heart some of the comments about how it's so convenient to have some ability to use digital devices on the dais. And then I thought about where we had been with our technology. And we were so limping and dragging along with technology before we made this huge investment to get nice devices on the dais, to improve the quality of the devices in the room, to jump on when we need a new microphone, to improve the public's ability to see what we do live. We've made so much investment in that. We had a contract IT team, if you want to call it that. It wasn't a very deep team that we had before. We now have highly qualified, responsive staff, and we have made huge capital investment of the taxpayers' money in making sure that we had the devices that we needed and the technology that we needed in order to do the best job that we could as a city, all of us. And if we need something else more, then I think we should ask for it. I don't think that we should rely on something that, I put in my back pocket and bring to the council chambers. I think that if I need more, if I need better access to information and I'm not getting it, not only should I ask for it, it's my responsibility to ask for it, and it's my responsibility to bring it up so that my other council members can benefit from it. So based on that summary of what I've looked into and what I've thought about since the last meeting in terms of potentially making these changes, I will rest my case, but I strongly feel that we need to change the wording. And the way that I've seen it most commonly worded is that texting shall only be done on an emergency basis.
Very good,
Thank
Nancy. Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Temp Mike Lara. Go ahead, Mike. You have to unmute. You have to unmute.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm thinking one day I'm going to get this right before we stop the Zoom meetings. But I agree. I think Councilmember Martinez and Councilmember Carroll have brought up good points. So one thing I was thinking of is perhaps maybe be attentive to others and items brought before the board and limit interruptions and distractions such as sidebar conversations and the use of cell phone. Because you're right. I mean, I've been in meetings where you're speaking to a board or a council and you've got one or two that are busy doing something else other than listening, and you don't know what they may miss. And so I think out of courtesy or out of respect, we're asking that council basically be attentive while somebody's speaking, or you have an issue that's before council is what they should be focusing on. So my thought by adding that, I think it covers what we're doing or what we want. But so that's just in short, that's my suggestion. Other than that, I'm really pleased that we have this type of guidance for future council members and future meetings, and something for current council members to refer to as a refresher, because there are times that I forget what I had for lunch, and so it's always good to have a document to go back to that's this detailed and easy to understand, to make sure that we are following the rules and we are consistent so that the public knows what to expect. And so those are my comments, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Council White?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like the work that you've done here, John, as well. I do have a few more questions about some of the other items. So in, I think it's section K, the consecutive years, you probably caught the typo on 2 years, not 2 terms. It should be 2 terms. The last paragraph, I think. no council member should serve more than 2 years.
Consecutive years?
No, I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should say.
Okay, so I stand
total of
corrected
2
on that
years,
one.
yeah.
I'm still a little concerned about the selection of committee assignments, because I can tell you, most of our colleagues or on other councils are way done by January. So what I wanted to suggest, and also in the wording you have that the mayor's selection will be done in a meeting in December. I'd like to try and be a little bit more proactive and clear on that, and suggest that the first meeting in December where the full council is seated and any existing election has been certified. So in other words, when it's not an election year, we can get our mayor the first meeting of December, we can have our assignments made before the end of the year, and then we start off January with full assignments, and then we're not behind everyone else. And in the years when the election holds up the meeting, then we hold up till after we have a fully seated council. So I want to throw that out for discussion. You have the rules if a council is unable to fill a vacancy. You don't have what happens if the council is unable to fill a vacancy. We had one of our vacancies went 2 meetings or 3, it was at least 2 meetings where we had a split vote, 2-2 on both of the people. And I know that there's some rules and guidelines that the state has if a council is unable to seat. So I think that information should be in there. In other words, I believe you have to set a special election by a certain time. Those kinds of things, I think would be important for a council member to know that.
That is set by state law.
So I think we should add that in here. I think that should be in here so that future council members who are in the 2-2 have full understanding of what it means if they're unable to fill the vacancy. Because I've seen County San Bernardino run into some serious issues with that at their level. So now to talk about cell phone use, I agree 100% with what Councilmember Carroll said in two points. Number one, that texting, we could ban texting from the dais. I'm in favor of that. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm also in agreement with her comment about we have new technology. We have the ability to use the technology. So I would even go a little bit further on that and say that sort of the language that Mike used, but we could eliminate any digital communication from the dais, including, and then use the words including texting or emailing. I mean, just to split hairs, texting and emailing are the same things. In other words, if a council member is using their phone to communicate, they are being distracted. But I do not support at all banning cell phone use on the dais, because I believe that if an issue comes up and I want to be able to access either files that I have or be able to do some research that would add to the discussion, as long as I'm following C, which is I'm not distracting or interrupting anyone and I'm not using my phone to communicate to anyone, I don't see a problem with having cell phone, or actually you probably should say mobile devices, because you're going to get people say, well, this is a tablet, not a cell phone. And you can email and text on a tablet as well. I don't know that you can text on some of them. So I'm okay with adding the terminology that says no texting or emailing or digital communications on the dais, with the exception of an emergency. I had one case recently. I remember one time when I had to get a call or a message from a family member that I had to make a decision as to whether to leave council as an emergency or not. And if they don't have the ability to communicate to me through at least sending me a message that I can review and look at and make the decision, then how do they get a hold of me? They call the 911 and get a message to city manager. So I still think that we are adults and that we can use our mobile devices reasonably, and that it is clear that we need to eliminate any interruptions or distractions or possible violations of Brown Act by not digitally communicating on the dais. So that's my suggestion on that terminology. And that was all my comments.
Very good. Thank you. On my comments in here, I mean, it's very good, well written and everything in here, and I do agree on the I call it a media communication on this. If we will not totally eliminate that, I do agree with you, John, on the word is avoid. I mean, but there's another underlining on the avoidance on the media communication. So I don't know what legal term you could use on that, but that would be nice, really, to spell out on the legal term or language in there that the media communications will be limited or be avoided in that. Other than that, I like the way it was put together. Council, you got another further discussion? If not, John, you could.
Julio was
Julio,
first.
go ahead.
So just a couple of comments real quickly. So number one, I do like the idea about the vacancies if not filled. Towards the end of that 2.04.140, where it says upon a nominee receiving 3 affirmative votes, the nominee shall be sworn in. So Councilmember White makes a good point. If that's not going to happen, then we probably want something in there that says some specified time after so many tries. If you want to do it in that meeting or something, then the council will have to call a special election. So that forces the council to have to make a decision because they know if they can't do it within a certain amount of time, it's going to election time. So I think that's not a bad idea if we can insert that specified time and put that in there so the council knows it's not going to go on forever. No one can play games. If you don't do it at a certain point, you're going to election. Number 2, I like the idea about, we are usually behind when it comes to naming people on commissions. And I don't mind the idea of on a non-election year, having those done before January. I think that's a good idea. And Councilmember White has a good point. You can put the wording in there where if, you can try to do it sooner than January once the new council seated. However, it has to have that wording about the registrar calling the official results. So if you can't get the official results by December, then of course you got to go first meeting of January because that's beyond their time to call it anyway. So that would be appropriate. And the last thing about the cell phone use, again, I think it's critical that we do have something in there that refers to the use of cell phone. We could, if you wanted to, put limit your cell phone use to city issued devices, because anything that's on the city is can be called by the public, and if someone's worried about you texting up there, then they can call for your text and so forth to see if you're doing anything violation. So if it was something where we needed to, we could say, the use of cell phone, city-issued mobile devices or something, that would go for Councilmember Carroll's comment about if we need something, we can ask for a tablet or something else, and then the public can be confident to know that they're using city devices, and therefore there's nothing else going on there. But I do think we have to have that little provision about having our personal uses for emergencies and so forth. Because I agree with Councilmember White, I have we're caregiving an 83-year-old father-in-law, and, we're constantly getting messages, sometimes I am, about what's going on, and, communicating with my wife, and, it helps to have that response without having to go through staff and getting something to me, and that could take all meeting if there's constant messages going by. So I think we have to have that little bit of a leeway there. But the way we word it, I think, is going to be the key trick there, and how we divide whether it's personal or we prohibit the use or so forth. So I'm interested to see what the wording's going to look like. But I am supportive, and I do think we have to have something in there for sure. So that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I may not have a question. Again, I'm going back to K. I think you may have covered it, but it says 2 years during a 4-year term. That doesn't mean someone at the end of their first term could also serve as a consecutive mayor in the first year of their next term because of that last sentence, correct? Where it says, but shall not serve as mayor or mayor pro tem in consecutive years. So I think that answered the question I was going to raise.
That's for you, John.
That's okay. I answered it myself.
Okay.
You're on mute, John.
Yeah, I thought you answered the question yourself.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Councilor Nancy Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I think your suggestions, Councilmember Martinez, were spot on. I think, and they follow on Councilmember White's basis that he actually put out. So I think I agree with all of the modifications that you suggested. When I brought this up tonight, I said that there's wording that some cities have done that said that cell phone usage for emergencies was okay. So I think that was at least brought forth when I first spoke on this issue, that I don't see any issue with cutting out the ability to be notified of a family emergency. And if it's going to be a lengthy response or you really need to talk to somebody, by all means, you're going to have to lead the dais to do that. You don't want to carry on a lengthy conversation texting if it's a true emergency. So, but putting in wording for emergency allowance, I think is fine. I'm not crazy over still encouraging or leaving a big opening for cell phone usage with the public issued devices. Although you're correct about that somebody could do a public records request, it's still pushing the burden onto the public of making them have to do the somewhat odious step of wanting to know what it was that was engaging a council member when they were on the dais instead of them paying attention. I think that the integrity and the transparency and the respectability image that we're trying to create with these new policies and procedures and in everything we've done over 6 years is to say that you shouldn't be texting on your phone. Now, I guess I'll just leave it at that. I think if you need to say, is the room hot, or, gee, I can't hear the presenter or whatever, you can speak over the microphone. And that way, all of the public is part of every conversation that's going on that dais that relates to city business. And I think that's the way it should be. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, you want it? Councilor White.
Yeah, I would just like to sort of get feedback from John on what he thinks he's heard tonight. I am still 100% with no texting or emailing from the dais, but I do think that there's a reason to use a mobile device when it may not be an emergency, and that is to bring up files or notes that I have on one of my devices, and or to be able to look up an item or do some research, and without texting or emailing, and no communication. Again, anyone can break these rules, and Councilman Carroll brings up the onus on the public. It doesn't really matter whether it's a public device or a personal device, because they can also claim a public records request on our personal devices as well. So I don't think that there's any way if that's what you're looking at, take the onus off. And I don't think that's what she was saying. I think she was saying that if we're still texting or emailing, that then they have to go, well, what are they texting or emailing about? So again, I'm okay with banning the texting or emailing on the dais, but I'm not in favor of usage of cell phones only in an emergency. So I just wanted to see, John, what you gathered from the five of us.
All right, John.
Okay. Let me just make a note. All right. So if it, it would be helpful to get this kind of nailed down this evening if you want, if timing is important to you. Because remember, if we make the changes over the next 2 weeks and bring back a document to you that you vote on for the first time, first reading at the next meeting, then that's going to be the first reading. And then you're going to have to do another reading, and then it's not going to become effective for 30 days thereafter. So it's up to you as a council how time sensitive this is. But I'm going to propose some language that would allow you to approve waive the first reading and approve the ordinance. And then it would come back to you in the form that you approved this evening with the amendments at the next reading. So first I would turn to section 2.04.110. Appointment of council members to boards and commissions of outside agencies. And so I listened to the comments, and here's some language that I would suggest for consideration. And it really just affects the beginning of that section. And it would say at the first regular council meeting, and then I would add after an election in which council members have been elected, comma, the mayor shall appoint members to boards and commissions, et cetera, et cetera. Because it seems like from the comments, you want to get these appointments done as soon as possible after an election. Do we have elections every year? We don't, do we?
No, every 2 years.
Every 2 years, so.
John, if I could, just to put into context the dates that we have upcoming for the election. So the results will be coming from the county on December 3rd. So that will be after our first meeting in December. And if you were to wait until the next meeting to seat those electeds, that would be December 15th. And then this would then kick it into the first meeting in January. Unless you guys were to call a special meeting to seat the electeds. Then that would allow time for the outside council to be done the second meeting in December.
John, Mayor, may I respond?
No, go ahead.
John, just to respond, I think what I'm focusing on is the non-election years, because I understand we're going to be under the guidance, we're going to be under the restrictions of getting an election certified. And so I think the wording that you have there where the mayor, obviously we don't select a mayor until we have a new council seated. So I think the idea of where the mayor will be selected in December is okay. But I think in a non-election year, the mayor should be selected in the first meeting in December so that we can get the process going in time to get everything done before the end of the year.
Okay, so looking at section 2.04.110, you want to move it to the second meeting in December or as soon as possible thereafter?
Yeah, I think you could. Couldn't you write it that the mayor is selected in the first meeting in December, unless you're waiting for an election to be certified, and then that process starts not necessarily with the first meeting in January, second meeting in January, but maybe the meeting after the mayor has been seated. That way it gives the mayor 2 weeks to sort of get their thoughts together. I mean, in most situations, the mayor already knows who's going to be mayor before the timing has to go through. But we do have to have the new council members weigh in on the decision. But yeah, I think you could just say, we're going to start it as soon as December as we can, barring an election. And then the process happens the next meeting and the consecutive or the successive meeting after there.
Okay, so section 2.04090 provides that the city council selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem shall occur annually at a regular or special council meeting in December by seniority rotation process. And it lays out the process. So as you just said, in most instances, except where the council just doesn't want to appoint the next person in line as the mayor, in most instances, people are going to have a whole year to kind of contemplate who they want to appoint. So in a non-election year for that person that's next on the list to become mayor, holding that meeting in January, I mean, are you okay with the idea of the first regular meeting in January that the mayor would select the appointments for the outside agencies in a non-election year?
I think we did that several times. I mean,
Not in a non-election year we did.
Oh, non-election.
Only in the election year have we had to wait till January.
Till January, yeah, last year we did wait till January, last year.
Because we waited till the second meeting in December to select a mayor. Because we didn't have any rules. We had no rules of when we're going to do it.
So if the mayor is selected in December, pursuant to the section that I just read, and they know, they're not going to get elected and then put in the position of mayor, right? They're going to that's going to be very unlikely that would happen. You'd have to go through a list of people with seniority before you got to that point. But if you appoint the mayor annually in December, and they've had the year to think about who they want on the committee, by January, that should give them enough time to know, in fact, the council did support them being mayor, did install them as mayor, and then they're making the appointments.
That's the way I see it. I mean, I think that sequence is better than, rushing it to the December. Because December is kind of tough. I mean, if there's an election and then even a non-election year, that'll be tough for the mayors who's appointed during that period to catch up, and also the staff. I mean, there'll be a lot of lists of committees on this. I don't know how many committees we have on outside committees on this. I mean, there's a bunch in there, like our RCTC, the WRCAG, and then other committees in there. That's a lot in there. I mean, that we have to think about it, and then who wants to serve on those committees, and usually it take probably a week or two. So on the first meeting on January, probably that's the best time to really appoint everybody on that. Appointed on around January on that.
Mayor, may I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't believe that I'm the only member that sits on a committee that wasn't approached in December that says, who's your new person? Because the committees that we serve on are picking their new leadership after the election. And last year, I think we even came to you and said, look, our representative can't be considered for an election position if they don't know whether or not they're going to be assigned to that committee. So I got you guys who are on WRCOG and RCA. You didn't get any calls from anyone in December that said, who's going to be there to serve on the committee starting next year.
Well, Mayor, I can respond.
Go ahead.
I'm not on executive committee or board, but they always want to know as soon as possible so they can get it done. But I just can't believe that there's cities out there that are rushing this to get it done in December. But if I look at the calendar, I don't see. I don't know. I see where we could, on a non-election year, have the third week of December where we could appoint commissions. It just starts getting into the holiday week, so you're not sure if you're going to have a meeting there or not. But if it's a simple meeting of just doing this, then we might be able to do that. But no, I know a lot of them that members on the committees that have to wait until January. So
Well, what if we said at the first available meeting in council meeting in December or January, or we could say at the second meeting in December or first meeting in January.
That works for me. I'm okay with whatever you guys decide.
Okay,
I've made
hold on. I mean, I saw Council Nancy Carroll. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've been on the executive board for a couple of years now for RTA, and it doesn't make any difference to them if, who gets appointed in December. Usually, it doesn't seem to make any difference, or early January. As long as you don't drag it out in January too much, it seems to be okay.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
just from my observation. That's not any official opinion from RTA.
Okay,
So here's the language I would propose in that section. At the second regular meeting in December, regular council meeting in December, or the first regular council meeting in January of each year, comma. And then the remainder of it as written. Does that work? That gives you some flexibility. If, you can do it in December on an election year, if the results are in. If they're not in, then you can push it to January.
or you could just say too, at the first meeting following the seated mayor, because then I
Well,
don't
the
know.
problem is that the council members, right, the mayor may be seated.
I don't know because we were following.
yeah, John, the mayor has to swear that, before he could really legally, right? I mean, to appoint those committees on that. So he could take over, or she could take over.
Well, we want to give the new council members the ability to vote for their mayor.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. I mean, the
what if you
mayor
have-
has to swear on that first. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to say, what if you have a council member and the election results haven't been finalized? I mean, under the California rules, the mail-in ballots can be counted up to, 17, 18 days after the election, I think.
Okay.
So, I think that's the concern that Councilmember White has is what if the election results haven't been finalized, if you have a race that's very close? And, I would just say that if that happens, you're just going to have to work around it and you'll leave a seat, open until that seat gets finalized and the election results confirmed. I mean, that's going to be the exception, the aberration, as opposed to the norm.
Okay, John.
But it sounds like everybody's okay with the idea of at the second regular council meeting in
On
December
December.
or the first regular council meeting in January of each year, comma, and then the remainder of it the way it's written.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable to?
Okay, before we do that, John, Todd wants to speak.
Well, this may be a terrible idea, but would you want to say, in the event that a board appointee has not been replaced by that second meeting of January, that position is presumed to be filled for the balance of the year? So that way, if you get caught up, you can't make an appointment, that board appointment or reappointment isn't made, then the sitting person is then presumed to just fill that slot. So then you have a continuation through the other boards and other executive committee assignments that you have. So that would keep a continuation. The only problem you'd have is in an election year where you have some new council members. They wouldn't, you'd have some vacated seats that would need to be filled at that point. But
May I respond?
Go ahead.
I like the thought. I think John's idea, I'm good with the way John wants to word it, but let me just throw this out there because I don't think it's in the rules. In a non-election year, when do we select a new mayor? I mean, when do we select a new mayor? Is it the first meeting in December? Is it the second meeting in December?
Might be on the second. on that? I
It
don't know.
says,
If it's
what
the
it
second
provides
meeting in
for
December,
now.
then this whole discussion is moot.
It
Yeah.
just says in December. It doesn't
Yes.
state.
Yeah,
It
it
doesn't say
says
on the first or second,
annually,
third.
annually at a regular or special meeting in December. And remember, the selection of the mayor and the mayor pro tem is going to be by seniority. They're going to rotate into that position unless the council just absolutely doesn't want them in that position. Which again, I think could happen, certainly. But it'll be an exception rather than the rule, I think.
Well, and then one other.
You should have a mayor in December every year.
Well, and then one other issue for us has been our mayor doesn't get seated until January. So we may appoint in December, the mayor isn't seated till January.
That's my point.
And then you have to be seated before you make the appointment.
But
So,
we changed that in this one.
right, so this now allows you, so I think that's been part of the other complicating factors in getting appointed in December is that the mayor has not been seated. So now you've got a timing issue that in a non-election cycle allows you to get them done in December. So in election cycle now, I think you could get it done if you can get the votes in and certified in a
Yeah.
clear manner. You could also call a special meeting also. So if you can't get it done in a regular session, you can call a special meeting to the reorganization.
Could I throw out a suggestion, Mayor?
Go ahead.
If you started a process where you always called a special meeting to seat electeds during elected year and to select a mayor before the second meeting in December, then you could always do the second meeting in December. It would never conflict if you always did a special meeting.
I think other cities do that too. I think a lot of other seats do that as well.
That makes sense. John?
Okay, well, I was having a hard time hearing everything that was being said. But I did want to clarify that you are, under these rules, you are, the council selection of the mayor pro tem would occur annually at a regular or special meeting in December through the rotation process. And the newly selected mayor and mayor pro tem shall be seated in their positions immediately after they have been approved by 3 affirmative votes of the council. So you're going to have, every year, you're going to have a new mayor in December.
December, yeah.
You may not always know in December who's going to be on your council. You know, it may go into January. It could go even later, but hopefully it'd be done by January. And then you could have that new mayor make the appointments to the committee. So, I think the language that we just went over should work. There's going to be some exceptions, where a race is so close, it might be disputed and the results don't get finalized for months. That could happen, right? But in most of the cases, I think if we put in section 2.04.110 at the second, we'll just say second meeting, council meeting in December,
That makes sense.
or the first
January.
regular council meeting, well, we could say at the first council meeting in January of each year, and then the remainder of the language. And I took out the word regular. And what we had talked about at the last meeting was not wanting these appointments to be made at a special meeting during a month where there are holidays and people are out of town and they don't get an opportunity to weigh in, on wanting to be on certain boards or commissions. That's why I had included the regular meeting language. I don't worry about that with this council, but if you got a council where there was a lot of conflict, that kind of thing can happen.
No, John, I do agree on that, on the second meeting on December, and then first week of January. You just brought it out. There's a lot of things going on in December. Once elected, we have to clear that on the election. Certified everybody, and if there's a delay, there'll be another, we have to push it. I mean, and some might be scheduled for vacation or something. I mean, not me. I mean, I know my vacation ahead of time, but, for you guys, I mean, I think that idea of John, I mean, the only thing is the language in there. So that's my 2 cents in there. I mean, go ahead and.
So, Mr. Mayor, how about just a minor modification at the second council meeting in December, or no later than the first regular meeting in council meeting in January, comma, and then the remainder of the language. So no later than the first regular meeting in January, these appointments are going to be made.
Yeah, that's good. It means no later. I mean, so it means we could do a special meeting during that period. I like that. I mean, we could call in probably after the before January. I mean, no later than January on that. Yeah. Go ahead, Council.
I agree with everything you're talking about, but I still ask the question, in a non-election year, when do we select our mayor? Do we decide this year we're going to do it the second week, next year we're going to do it the first meeting? It's not clear there, and if we're giving, in a non-election year, the ability to do it in the second meeting, then we're giving up the advantage that we do have in the non-election years.
I think, John, on that, there'll be a standard, non-election year and then election year.
But it doesn't say that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, do you
No,
just
I
want to say
think,
the first, you want to say the first meeting in December?
No, on the second year, I mean, there'll be a standard on that, non-election year, and then, on that should be every 2 years or every year. That should be, the guidelines that we have to follow.
That's why I was suggesting the first meeting in December, where you have a council that's seated that will be serving the next year.
The problem is.
So for example, and I'm just going to bring this up because I think it's pretty unrealistic, and I know Mike won't be offended by this, but, so Mike becomes our mayor as far as the rules go. And in December, I become the mayor if I get the 3 votes. And I want to be mayor in the first meeting in December, and Mike wants to be the mayor all the way through the end of the second meeting in December. And I'm bringing this up because Mike and I would not go that way, but you may have a situation, if you don't lay it out, you don't make it clear, that it's just up to people deciding. And each year we decide based on, I just think it's a good idea to be clear that in a non-election year we can sit someone. I'm okay if you want to say the second meeting in December is the meeting that we always select a mayor. I'm comfortable with that, but let's just not leave it open-ended. I think that we give up an advantage by doing it that way, but I don't want anyone to look at this as a personal agenda of mine, that I'm going to, if I'm able to get 3 votes, I'm going to boot Mike out in the first week of mayor because I want to be mayor. So, and I wouldn't do that, but we're looking at future councils.
Okay. Did you get that, John?
I heard the comment. But I think you all should weigh in and then give me direction on what you want to do.
Go ahead, Councilor Martinez.
Well, I don't see a problem wording it to whereas in a non-election year, we're not changing in any way. So we should definitely be able to have a mayor on the first week of December. I mean, there's not a problem with that. The problem comes in the election years, and we've already talked about that. So I'm okay to add the city council, so select the mayor, mayor pro tem annually at its first regular council meeting in a non-election year, and then the second regular meeting or special council meeting in December in an election year, if you want to put it that way. This way you have a separation of the two. But I'm okay with Councilmember White's suggestion. I don't see any reason why we can't do it in a non-election year.
Okay. Anybody else?
So I like what you said there, Julio, where you said in an election year, it's either the second meeting in the second meeting of the month, or a special meeting if the council decides to call a special meeting
In an election year.
in an election year. That way, we can still sit the mayor in the second meeting, unless the election has not been settled yet. And then the previous mayor can then ask for a special, mayors are the ones who suggest a special meeting, correct? Calls a special meeting is by the mayor.
Yeah. I don't think we had that in the rules, but I think that's,
We may want to add that in the rule.
yeah, we might want to add that.
Yeah.
So in other words, if I'm not the mayor, if the mayor doesn't want to call a special meeting, then a special meeting can only be called by staff, I guess, or the mayor. I don't know that you're right, that we haven't discussed that under the mayor's roles.
Well, it's called by the mayor or a majority of the council, being
Okay.
polled by the city clerk.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else to weigh on this? Okay.
So is everybody in agreement?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead.
Can somebody recite what that agreement is for me?
That's why we have YouTube, John.
We're at section 2.04.090, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the city council selection of the mayor, and may I, Mayor? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. The city council selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem shall occur annually at the first meeting of December in a non-election year, or at the second regular or special council meeting in December during an election year. And then the rest of the night. I believe that's what I said.
Okay, so you said the first meeting in December on a non-election year, or the second regular meeting, or second meeting?
Second regular meeting or special meeting in December during an election year. Because technically you could do it, depending on what the results are. That's the whole problem, is the result thing during an election year. But during a non-election year, there's no reason we can't do it in the first, I don't think.
Okay, so we won't necessarily say, we'll say in which council members are elected, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to-
Okay, so the city council selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem shall occur annually at the first meeting in December in a non-election year in a council, or in a year during which no council members are up for election. Seats are up for election, or at the second regular meeting or a special meeting in December during a year in which council members seats are up for election. Okay, so let me try that again. City council selection of mayor and mayor pro tem shall occur annually at the first meeting in December in a year during which no council seats are, say, open for election, or at the second regular or special meeting in December during a year in which council member seats are open for election. Does that work?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then back to that, hold on, Councilor White got probably a quick comment on this. Go ahead.
I just want to thank everyone for going through this process. I know when I raised it several meetings ago that it was something that we hadn't really thought of, but we put a lot of work and time into it, and I think it'll pay off. So I do want to show you that or tell you that I do appreciate your digging into the details on this, because I think it's very important that we have a guide for future council members. So thank you. And you too, John. I appreciate all the work. And Nicole. Forgot Nicole.
Agreed. Go ahead, John.
Okay. And then we'll put the mayor and mayor pro tem's selection shall occur by a seniority rotation process as follows, colon. So let me read that again, because I know Nicole's listening. The city council selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem shall occur annually at the first meeting in December in a year during which no council seats are open for election, or at the second regular or special council meeting in December during a year in which council member seats are open for election, period.
Okay.
And then it will go on to say, the mayor and mayor pro tem selection shall occur by a seniority rotation process as follows, colon, and the rest of section 2.04.090 would remain unchanged.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay, then we go back to, now we go back to section 2.04.110. We could say at the first regular council meeting after the installation of a new mayor, comma.
That sounds good.
Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, John.
I mean, that's the idea here, right? We want the new mayor to make these appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the worst case, that would probably be the first meeting in January.
Right. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to take out the word at through the word year, and put at the first regular council meeting after which a new mayor is selected or installed, we'll say, or sworn into office. Nicole, we don't swear the mayor into office, do we?
Right, I was just going to say that. We don't swear them in unless they're new.
Is installed, comma, the mayor shall appoint members to boards or commissions. Does that work?
Yes.
That's good.
At the first regular council meeting after which a new mayor is installed, comma, the mayor shall appoint.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, then next we go to section 2.04.130. And after listening to everybody's comments, I would suggest, instead of changing subsection C, that we add a section I at the end. And remember, the preamble to that is the city council member shall, colon, at the top. Everybody sees that language. And then we could add the word limit use of texting and other forms of electronic messaging during council meetings to emergency situations. So they shall limit texting and other forms of electronic messaging during council meetings to emergency situations. Does that work?
Sounds fine to me.
Yes, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good.
That's good, John.
So if all those, did I cover everything? Okay, then let's go to section 2.04.140. And there were comments made about, and I think it sounded like there was agreement about trying to put a little bit of pressure on councils to fill these vacancies within the timeframes provided in the government code, or call a special election. So what I would add to the beginning of that section is within 60 days of its occurrence, comma, the council shall fill a vacancy on the council by appointment or call a special election in compliance with the government code, period. And then the next sentence would say, in the event of a vacancy on the council, we could say, in the event the council chooses to fill a vacancy by appointment, the council shall fill the vacancy within 60 days of its occurrence in compliance with and subject to the limitations set forth in the applicable provisions of the government code.
A quick question, Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor Martinez.
So John, does that mean that the special election has to be called by the 60th day, or it has to be decided and voted on by the 60th day?
You either have to appoint somebody or call a special election within that 60 days. You have to do one of the two under the government code.
Okay, so by calling it, you're simply putting it into the registrar that you're going to do it, but it takes a while for it to get there. So that could take another 30 days or so to get going.
Yeah, it's not going to occur within the 60 days. You just have to announce that you're going to call a special election.
Well, the only comment I have on that is that it leaves that up to 8, maybe 7 council meetings for them to decide to appoint somebody, because they can use all of that time and keep going back stalled 2-2 until the 7th meeting when you're getting into the 50th day, and then decide to call for it. To me,
Well, this is set by state law. I mean, this what we're talking about right now is a council, when they have a vacancy, they've got 60 days to either call a special election or to appoint somebody to fill the vacancy. So we can't really modify that state law. What we can do, and the way I had it drafted was, that in the event of a vacancy on the council shall fill the vacancy within 60 days of its occurrence in compliance with and subject to the limitations set forth in the government code. In the event the council chooses to fill the vacancy by appointment, the mayor shall invite qualified individuals to apply for the vacant position. So what we could say is, within 60 days of its occurrence, the council shall fill a council vacancy either by appointment or by calling a special election, period.
Mayor.
Period.
I think
And
that's
then
in
in the event the council chooses to fill the vacancy by appointment, comma, the mayor shall invite qualified individuals. Does that sound good?
No, I think there's a problem with that, John.
Well, and I got a question too, so.
Because you're saying that within 60 days, we have to fill a vacancy either through an appointment or a special election.
No,
I think that's what you just read back, but I think what you meant to say, or call a special election, call for a special election.
yes, that's what I said, because I read it right out of the municipal law handbook, that within 60 days of its occurrence, the council shall fill a council vacancy either by appointment or by calling a special election. So they call the special election. The election wouldn't occur within that 60 days, though.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Council Martinez.
But John, couldn't the city put its own ordinance and say, the council can appoint within 30 days after the vacancy, and if such doesn't occur, then must call a special election, which forces the council to say, if you can't do it in 30 days, then you have to call the election, because we're still within the law of the 60 days. Or do we have to allow up to 60 days? I'm just trying to put pressure on the council not to drag it out,
But
especially if you do.
is 30 days enough time to get qualified people to put in their nomination and ask to be appointed? And I mean, it's 30 days, that's 2 council meetings. Is that enough time to?
Well, it may not be, but I was just, I'm just commenting on your fact that the 2-2 dead, drags things out. So,
Right.
I'm okay with going up to 60 days. I just want the council to have some sort of a deadline. But the law already gives them a deadline within that 60 days. So I'm okay with John's original interpretation of that, because the 60 days is the deadline. But I thought maybe you guys wanted it sooner. But I mean, I'm okay with 60 days. You're right, it does take a while.
John, you gonna say something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, this is a situation where the legislature has spent a lot of time debating this issue. And for general law cities, they've come up with a statutory scheme for filling vacancies on city councils. And, there's a process that's laid out. And so you have either 60 days to appoint somebody. That's the time that, the legislature deemed fit to provide to councils to appoint somebody to fill a vacancy, or alternatively, call a special election. And so, I tried to avoid, and I specifically referred to compliance with the government code so that we didn't run afoul of a state law that applied to us as a general law city. But what I would suggest is perhaps within 60 days of its occurrence, the council shall fill a vacancy on the council by appointment or call a special election in compliance with the government code. In the event the council chooses to fill a vacancy by appointment, the mayor shall invite qualified individuals to apply for the vacant positions. At a public meeting held in compliance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, the council shall interview applicants for the vacant position, and so on. And the focus here was that we didn't really have a process. Once you decided to fill the vacancy by appointment as opposed to special election, we didn't really have a process. And so when we did have that occur in the past, the council sort of had to make up the rules as it went along. The government code says it provides the rule that you have to either fill it by appointment or call a special election within 60 days. But how you go about choosing the appointment, it doesn't tell you how to do it. And that's the part we were missing. And so I think this addresses that part. But I don't think we should get into trying to rewrite or overwrite or modify the state law mandates that are applicable to this council.
Very good, John. But that's a good discussion, though.
So with that in mind, if we put within 60 days of its occurrence, comma, the council shall fill a vacancy on the council by appointment or call a special election in compliance with the government code, period. And then I would take out everything in the next sentence And then I would start back up with, in the event the city council chooses to fill the vacancy by appointment, the mayor shall invite qualified individuals to apply for the vacant position. And then the remainder of that paragraph unchanged.
Sounds good.
Yeah? Very good, John.
Sounds good.
That's good.
I'm
Okay.
good with
So I think that concludes the changes to this ordinance, and let's see if I dare read them one more time before you
No.
make a motion.
Please, no.
Just email us.
Mayor, I move to approve the reading of the first reading of this item with the, to be brought back with the amendments we've discussed in ad infinitum.
I'll second.
Ready for roll call?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
yes.
Mayor Santos?
Yes. Okay, let's move on action items. Number 8, award of contracts to Wood Maintenance Services, Inc., Clean Harbors Environmental Services, Inc., and Environmental Logistics for homeless encampment cleanup services on city-owned properties. City staff, Liz.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. The item that you have before you is actually to award 3 separate contracts to 3 separate vendors that all bid on the RFP that staff put out in July for homeless encampment cleanup services on city-owned property. We do not have a high number of homeless encampment cleanups that we have to do. However, they do require a higher level of expertise because of the biohazards and trash and things like that we find at our homeless encampments. I want to point out that this was a collaboration of 3 separate departments: Community Services, the Police Department, and Community Development, who oversees code enforcement. We got together and determined that this was a need within the city's organization to have some type of contract so that we could pick up the phone, simply call a vendor and have them handle that for us. That allows staff to focus on those areas that we are more expert in. This area has a high liability, and we can pass that liability on to the contractors. The reason we are awarding 3 separate contracts because we would like a pool of contractors to pull from. Contractors get busy, especially in this day and age, and we would like to have a pool of contractors so that if one is on a job in another city, we can go to the next one. We have a similar situation with weed abatement contractors, and oftentimes we will have 2 contractors working simultaneously within the city on different projects, and that expedites us being able to address the homeless encampments. We will work closely with the police department and code enforcement. There is a process involved with notification of the homeless in the area, etc. So we will work with code enforcement and the police department should council award these contracts. And lastly, I'd like to note that the city attorney did draft these contracts for us. They have approved them. And with that, I would like to recommend that City Council award a homeless encampment cleanup services contract to each of the following 3 vendors: Woods Maintenance Services, Inc., Clean Harbors Environmental Services, Inc., and Environmental Logistics, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreements on behalf of the city of Beaumont. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good, Liz. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this, Nicole?
I have no written comment. Do we have anyone on the line?
There's no one on the line.
Very good. Thank you. Council, discussion? Any questions? Poop, huh? Okay, I mean, I think we're good. I mean, quick one in here. I mean, how many registered, homeless we have within the city? If you do have that information.
I would have to refer that question over to the police department. I know the homeless count was done within the last few months. It's done every year. I don't have the official number. The last number I knew of was 13.
Okay.
I don't know if that's current.
Okay, very good. Todd raised his hand. Go ahead, Todd.
Yes, so we don't have this year's point in time count yet. Last year's point in time had 17 certified homeless here.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Councilman Julio Martinez.
Yeah, I got a quick question. Thank you for this. I think it's really needed, and I think it's going to be really good to have the expert service. My question is, are we allowed to use these services similar to the weed abatement? I know this is for city property, but what happens when you have the private property and you've notified the owner that there's stuff there that needs to be taken off and they don't take it off? Do we have the ability to do like we do with weed abatement and use our consultant to go in and remove that and then bill the property owner? Or is that different?
We don't have that mechanism in place right now. I would have to ask code enforcement what that process is. I know there's a legal notification that we have to post at the camp to give the person some time to remove their items. As far as private property, this is more focused on city-owned property. I'm not sure what the process is for private property. That would have to be the property owner's responsibility.
I'm not sure if council's interested in looking into that, but it'd be kind of nice if we had that policy just in case we needed it. Luckily, it hasn't been an issue for us, but looking at the future, I think we should have some mechanism there just in case we have a property owner. Looks like the property owners we have been dealing with are pretty proactive in doing, abatement and so forth. But I think we might need to have that just in case, so that we're not stumbling to figure out how to deal with it when it comes up. So that's my suggestion to council.
No, I mean, that's good, Liz. I mean, you mentioned the code enforcer, enforcement in there. I think that would be nice, one agency that get involved on that, on the private sector on that. Thank you. That's a good question, Council Martinez. Any, I think we're good. I mean, if not, I need a motion on this item number 8.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'll
Yes.
make a motion to award a homeless encampment cleanup services contract to each of the following 3 vendors. 1, Woods Maintenance Services Incorporated. 2, Clean Harbors Environmental Services Incorporated. And 3, Environmental Logistics, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreements on behalf of the city of Beaumont.
I'll second.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Santos?
Yes. Okay, item number 9, award an agreement for maintenance services to Turboscape, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for citywide mulching. Please.
Go ahead.
Hello. Hey, hello, council and mayor. I have before you a staff report for a not to exceed amount of $100,000 for Turboscape. In our efforts to maintain the right-of-ways here in the city, one of the ways that we do that is by putting down the wood chip, the mulch, along different areas. This is something that we have budgeted in our budget. In previous years, what we've done is every time we have a project or every time we have a specific area, we would go and get a quote from a company and have them come out and do it. What we'd like to do is have one not to exceed amount so that we can have them go throughout the city a little bit quicker. It'll expedite that process. When we started this process, we went out and we contacted 3 different companies to provide quotes for us. We received those quotes. Once receiving the quotes, we reviewed them, and then I spoke to each of those companies to see what their responsiveness and their ability to perform the tasks that we had. The city of Beaumont has a large amount of right-of-ways that we want to be able to use this wood chip and this mulch in. And so one of the items we wanted to make sure that these companies could do is that they would be able to perform in a timely manner. And so we have the recommendation of going with Turboscape. They have a large fleet of trucks and some super truck capacities in order to expedite that process and getting that mulch in as quickly as possible when we have these project areas. So we do have that recommendation for you guys today, and we would encourage you to award that agreement for maintenance services for wood mulch installation to Turboscape in an amount not to exceed $100,000, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. And if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Very good. Okay, is there any public comments on here, Nicole?
I have no written comments. Do we have any public comments on the line?
No callers on the line, Nicole.
Very good. Council, discussion on this item number 9? No?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to award an agreement for maintenance services for wood mulch installation to Turboscape Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $100,000, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
I'll
I'll
second.
Oh,
Okay, someone has to name who the second is, because all 3 of you said it at the same time.
At the same time, I'm with,
yeah, Mike did it.
okay, under Mike.
Okay, I will mark. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Santos?
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Item number 10, fiscal year 2020 to 2021 Development Impact Mitigation Fee Program adjustment pursuant to Ordinances 1087, 1092, 1095, and Resolution 2017-23. Staff report, Jeff Hart.
Well, Mayor, I'm going to fill in. Mr. Hart is attending a very important school district, school board meeting tonight.
Right,
So
okay.
I'm going to try to do my best to fill in his shoes here. When we adopted the updated impact fee program back in 2017, we included in the ordinances a provision for an automatic adjustment of our impact fees based on specific CPI factors. And so the specific factors we use, the indices we use, are specifically targeted to the type of impact fee that we're charging. So this year, we've run the analysis that's specified in the ordinances and resolutions for those fee amendments. And those results are as follows. The construction cost index applies to traffic signals, railroad crossings, local street and bridges, excluding the TUMP program, community parks and neighborhood parks. There was actually a 0.47% decrease in the CCI, the construction cost index, for those impact fees. With regard to the recreation facilities, fire stations, police stations, and public facilities, we use the building cost index, and that actually was a reduction of 1.44% over this last year. And then for the sewer capacity fee, we use the consumer price index. For that one, that was actually a 1.7% increase. So the adjustment of our respective impact fees would be adjusted based upon those differing factors. So for this year, again, we have certain fees that are going to go down between 0.47% to 1.44%, and the sewer capacity fee going up at 1.7%. So pursuant to our ordinance, we are to revise these annually, and we are to provide a report to City Council with regard to how those adjustments were calculated for the coming year. These fees will go into effect beginning January 1st of 2021. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you. Any public comments on this, Nicole?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
Still no callers on the line.
Okay, very good. Council, discussions.
Did we lose Nancy?
We lost Nancy. Nancy, are you there?
There
There
she
she
is.
is. Okay, council discussion on item number 10. If not, I'll need a motion on item number 10.
And Mayor, this is a receive and file.
Oh, you're right. We'll just receive and file.
Yes.
Thank you. Now let's move on item number 11, adoption of the City of Beaumont investment policy. Staff report, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. Jeff Molenkamp for the record. What you have before you is the investment policy. Now, we have an investment policy, but it hasn't been reviewed in a while. And so Senior Accountant Jennifer Eustachian looked at it, and she's done quite a bit of work on this. And we went to Finance Committee last night to go over it in some detail. Essentially, what we're trying to do is move the city to being able to get a little bit higher investment return while making sure that the principles of safety of principal, preservation, and liquidity requirements being met are kept as your highest two priorities. After that, we do feel like there's some opportunities to move forward with increasing our investment returns while still meeting those two major principles. The policy provides for a process to go through to hire investment advisor and provides standards of care in a variety of different matters. Jennifer spent a lot of time researching other cities, going through GFOA. And with this, I'm going to turn it over to her to really go through the actual policy itself, give you a little bit more details, and then be happy to answer questions after that. We also have two council members that were on the Finance Committee last night that might have some comments, and then certainly our treasurer who leads Finance Committee. So with that, Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before we have the city's proposed updated investment policy, as well as explained to the Finance Committee last night, we wanted to make this policy clear and easier to understand. How we did that was we took out the repetitive language that was within the old policy. We added in language that refers to maintaining investments to comply with state and local laws. We added in a requirement that financial dealers, investment advisors, and institutions will be selected through a competitive bidding process. We added 6 new investment options to allow opportunity for a slightly higher return, but also keeping in mind the safety of principal and the liquidity needs of the city. The added investment options include state obligations, California and others, California local agency obligations, joint powers authority pools, money market mutual funds, commercial paper, and a CD laddering program. We added in a section that for any investment pools or money market mutual funds, there will be a full investigation into the fund prior to investment. We included language that the city will maintain liquidity to meet its expenditure obligations for the next 6 months. For the investment of bond proceeds, we made the indenture the governing document for investment of such proceeds. We added a glossary for the reader's reference. And we also attached a document of allowable investments for the State of California Government Code as of January 1st, 2020, which we can easily update the attachment as often as the state updates the document. What we hope to accomplish is to expand investment options beyond LAIF to take advantage of other investment opportunities that will allow the city to properly diversify the city's portfolio, the slightly higher yield, but also maintaining the safety of principal while meeting the city's liquidity requirements. Now, as Jeff said, some of the investment options may require some proactive monitoring and active management, and therefore, in any of those situations, the city will engage one or more investment advisors for professional opinion and guidance. Last night at Finance Committee, there were some concerns on finding and hiring the right advisor. I researched and found that the GFOA has a good amount of resources on the subject, which include a best practices guide, sample RFPs, sample contracts, and sample questionnaires. We believe this process would involve the use of a committee, similar to how the audit firm selection went, and therefore will give the council confidence that the right advisor will be chosen if that path is taken in the future. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jeff, and before we do any questions, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Just the only follow-up comments I have is that the Finance Committee and Audit Committee did vote to move this forward and recommend approval by the City Council. They didn't recommend any changes to the document you have in front of you. The only really concerns were, as Jennifer mentioned, the process wherein we select an investment advisor or if multiple advisors were necessary. That was really the primary concerns, if any, were raised last night. And with that, I know we have some council members that were there and attended. They have their own thoughts as well as our treasurer. And I'll go ahead and stop at that point. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Any comment on this? Public comments, Nicole?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No one on the line, Nicole.
Okay, open for discussion, council. Any questions?
Mayor, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Council White.
So you've added some additional options, investment options, and you've got language in here that says some of these additional investment options would require that we hire an advisor, and you have the process to hire the advisor. But where is the decision made? In other words, if, let's say, laddering the CDs, is that decision made before you hire an advisor? Because that's an option that requires an advisor for monitoring, we go that direction? Or do you bring in an advisor from the beginning who recommends that, these 2 or 3 options, or you don't need to, it's not in the city's best interest to bring in some of these new options, and therefore we don't need an advisor. So I think the question is more which comes first, the cart or the horse?
Yeah, I think I'll try and address that and see if Jennifer has any additional comments. But essentially what we will look to do is secure an investment advisor. Regardless of, it would be my opinion that we would want to secure the services of an advisor. And then from there, we would make the decisions. We would use that advisor to help give us some guidance as to good available investment options. We would only look for advisors that deal with other municipalities and are very familiar with California laws, requirements. So we would only look for advisors that really meet that threshold criteria. From there, we would be looking for them to, in fairness, bring us options that would allow for a good investment return, or maybe a better investment return, but still meet that stability, preservation of capital as its primary goal, and obviously our liquidity needs. But I would want to actually have that investment advisor earn their keep by giving us some options, whether it's turning us to really high quality municipal bond options, maybe a 1 or 2 year laddering of bonds, whether it's CD laddering. And so that's what we would be looking as that advisor to actually give us some of that guidance and work with us. And then obviously I would be working with the city manager on a fairly regular basis to weigh those different options that are brought before us by any kind of investment advisor.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Okay, good. Thank you. Council? I think there's none in there. We're doing well. Councilor Martinez, did you raise your hand? Okay.
Just a few quick comments. I'll let the nuts and bolts be with Councilmember Carroll and our treasurer. But basically, I just expressed my slight hesitation at the committee last night, just for the insecurity of the unknown. But I do agree that, we have to have absolute limitation to the safest types of security and, the preservation of capital and the, maintenance of the liquidity. So I agree on all those purposes and our goals for this program. I was concerned at first with the cost of the advisor versus the return of the investment. So I'm kind of curious to see what we're looking at as far as numbers. We did at the committee voice concern about, who's running it, who in the city, who are we going to pick? And with that came the concern of transparency and the oversight, making sure that the that the committee had some sort of an oversight or involvement in the process, for peace of mind for the residents. So that was also brought forth and mentioned last night. And I would be comfortable with having a little bit more details before we jumped into the actual hire of an advisor. I would kind of like to get a little background more of, hey, what are we kind of looking at? I know there's different types of securities, and with this one would get that, and with that one, and that's what the advisor does. It tells us all that. But I would kind of hope to get just a little bit of a framework before we jump to that step. Now, maybe that's what the advisor does, I'm sure, but I don't know if I'm just asking for a little something before we make that big commitment. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know who would have the expertise to do that. But I'm just kind of getting a little picture of what it is we're getting into. What could we expect possibly? And then the specifics would have to be left to the professionals. But that would be what I would be more comfortable with. But talking to the last night to Jennifer and so forth, they've been doing research, and even Councilman Member Carroll has made that point that most cities have some sort of investment policy. So I guess my hesitation was put to rest a little bit, knowing that cities do this, and we would be following along those good practices. But those are just some of the concerns I had that I voiced and I bring to you as well. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Anybody else? I will do my own comment on this. On the advisor, he's right. We have to be transparent on this, and then also some of the finance advisors should be qualified by you, by the finance directors, and presented to us. But it's nice to see the qualified advisors in there, because my concern is how much we're talking about. How much investment are we going to put on these investments? And then mostly, my really concern is the cost. How often are we going to move that? How often are we going to put it on? Is it on two investment, three investments that probably several millions on this? And how liquid are we going to pull out this fund in case of an emergency? So that's the thing that probably the council has to be concerned about. Or see how this advisor or this company will manage our funds on this. That would be nice to see that. Even you mentioned the municipal bond and everything. We're talking about probably 5 years to 15 years that will be tied up. But the thing is, I like the way you put it together. Some of the investment type in here. I like the local agency bond. There's 5 years in there. Some it's only a few years that we could pull it out. But again, probably our situation right now, I don't like to tie up our own reserve funds on that, because there's a lot of movements right now on the city of Beaumont. But it's nice to prepare now and do a plan rather than no plans on the reserve we have. Other than that, I'm good on the way I see it on your plan in here is very good. And anybody else? I need a discussion or comment. Go ahead, Barry. I could see your hand in there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I just wanted to reiterate, this is a first step of putting our toes in the water. We needed to review the investment policy, and I believe Jeff and Jennifer have done an excellent job in giving us a framework to be able to work from. But it is no commitment right now to change anything that we are doing currently with the way we're investing. And I believe it will be a process of finding appropriate vendor or people to manage this. And when they do, they will present options. If you think of your personal investment, they don't just come in and say, yeah, give me your money and I go and invest it. They need to understand all the factors involved. And then they give you a profile, what one option will be versus another. So I think that's down the road, but the idea is this is a great document to start with, and obviously we would bring back to the council the right type of people to be our financial advisors with all the questions that you have about, well, how much is it going to cost versus how much are we going to make, and so forth, and what would be the best investments. You can look at a lot of different ways with the tools that Jennifer has identified in the document. So I think right now you had asked the Audit and Finance Committee to start looking at investment policy and at ideas that might work to increase our investment opportunities. And when I talked with Jeff, the first step was let's get the policy out and see what we need to do with the policy. That's all.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead, Council Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it was a very good job that was done last night. And Jennifer and Jeff have done a really spectacular job with doing this documentation and making it so readable. So, and that was commented on last night also. Also, it was brought up that Urban Futures was also given a little bit of advice to make sure that we were going in the right direction on this. So that was good also. And last night it was discussed that there's a lot of economic instability right now related to the work environment, businesses, corporations, people being out of work, the impact that that's having on Wall Street, investments, et cetera. So it was brought up last night that there was a little concern with not only this being new to us, but that the economic environment was quite different from what we've been experiencing for a number of years. So I just want to add that was discussed in the Finance and Audit Committee last night. And that, so there's a deep awareness of that with everybody who was involved in this. And it just makes it all the more important that we take baby steps with this and that we get expert advice. And when I say expert advice, Jeff brought up that the GFOA has a whole series of recommendations and guidelines and vendors. Actually, you can even find vendors that have done work with municipalities for a number of years and have a good, stable record. So we have pretty good resources there. The Certified Municipal Treasurers also has the same resources. So we discussed that last night. So this is not where we're going to, figure out somebody who wants to get a big commission and just bring them in a little bit naively. Everybody is really putting under the microscope every step of the process that we need to do to make sure that this is right. So, thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, if there's none in there, I just need a motion to adopt or, approve this item number 11.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve to adopt the investment policy.
I'll second that.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Santos?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Jennifer, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 12. Set time, date, place for special workshop. Mr. Pardon.
Thank you, Mayor Council. It's that exciting time of year again where we get to think about working on the budget. So everybody looks happy for that. So we would propose, we've been working on developing some information to get out to you guys to have a very good conversation. Would October the 8th at 5:30 p.m. work for this August body?
May I look at my mobile device?
Well, we have to vote.
This constitutes an emergency.
I need to look at my mobile device.
This is an
I have to
emergency.
put a motion and vote for it. Was that October what?
October the 8th at
Yeah.
5:30 PM.
I can do it. At 5 p.m.?
At 5:30? 5:30, okay?
5:30?
I
Can't-
find.
Yeah, there's a league annual conference expo on that, but they'll be done at 5. So 5:30 will be.
5:30? Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Other council? October the 8th.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem, okay.
Julio's
Well,
good.
Julio Martinez, he's okay.
Yeah, I'm good for 5:30.
5:30?
On the-
Okay. Mike is okay. How about Nancy? October
Okay.
the 8th, 5:30.
Mhm.
All right, so that works.
That works.
Let's go to Vegas right now. All right. Cool.
He's good?
You saying we're gonna have it in Vegas?
We're going to have it in Vegas, absolutely. Yeah. So you can watch the Knights play. Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Great topic right after the investment discussion. Very.
I know, not Las Vegas, man.
Awesome. Okay, thank y'all very much.
Very
Looking
good.
forward to
Thank
it.
you. So we need to put a motion on this to approve that meeting? Workshop, actually. Right, Lloyd?
I don't think we need a motion, right?
Consensus is fine.
Consensus? We got it. Okay, very good. Let's move on. Item number 13. City Attorney invoices. Are you going to be around, John?
Due to the fact that this affects my law firm, I'm recusing myself. And Nicole, can you place me in a separate room? Or I can just turn it off and step out.
We can place you in a waiting room.
Okay. Okay, any public comments on this? Nicole?
I have no written comments. Do we have any callers on the line?
No one on the line this evening.
Okay, discussion or motion?
Mayor, I'll move to approve the invoices in the amount of $107,381.65.
I'll second.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Santos?
Yes. Wait for John. There he is. Okay, item number 14, legislative updates and discussion. Mr. Todd Parlin.
Thank you, Mayor. So in your package, you had our monthly, or I guess our regular report from Townsend. Some of the key issues we have on the legislature is that they are in recess for the 2020 session. We are waiting to see what the governor will sign. His deadline is September 30th. So we'll see what happens there. We'll probably be able to provide a much more detailed update to you on what actually went into effect. Of most concern are our housing and then our public safety related bills. And then obviously on November 3rd, a very special day for us as we're looking at a general election. Again, we've highlighted in the report where we are with various COVID-related issues. There's housing eviction protection that's been applied at the state and the federal level. With that, don't know if you guys may have any additional questions or concerns that you'd like to discuss at this point.
No? Open for discussion, council. If none, let's move on. Okay, We're good, Todd. Council reports. I'll go on Nancy Carroll. Council
Oh,
Carroll.
thanks. I always rely on going first. I attended by Zoom T-Now meeting last week. It was not our usual meeting, but we had a very good presentation on the work that was going on the 10 and the timetable and what they were doing for notification to the public. So it was, that part of it was very, very good. And we get, the T-Now meetings are so good because you get community involvement and then the word gets passed through to the community. So that went very well. The next meeting I have will be this week, and it's the Veterans Committee meeting. And other than that, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor Pro Temp Mike Lara.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Really nothing to report. I did, however, want to just put out a thank you to our administration group for working through this whole COVID thing. Not that we're out of the woods, but ensuring that we do have staff and thanking the staff for coming in and adjusting to the changes from working from home. Then a shout out to our maintenance crew, road crews for working through this whole thing without, stopping the work and ensuring that our citizens receive the services that they need. And also our bus drivers and transportation group out there, they're doing all that work and making sure everybody gets to where they need to go. And our police officers for watching out for us and keeping everything in order. That's all, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council Julio Martinez.
There we go. So, of course, I was at the Finance and Audit Committee last night, and the RCA resumed via Zoom, and we had our meeting yesterday as well. And basically, the biggest issue we have right now is the RCA is thinking about considering a change to the RCA's management agency. They're thinking about going under RCTC. And I have some big concerns about this. The plan is to have a separate board that runs RCA, separate from the RCTC board, but that the director would be the same director for both agencies. And, I have an issue with that. I also have an issue with the way that it was started, because originally we were told that it was to address the CalPERS obligations. And then we're getting a message that, it's to help find different ways and avenues of funding for RCA to help RCA continue with its permits and so forth. So I haven't been too happy with the way that the process has been. There's been a lot of executive committee working, which is fine. That's what, their job is. But, I barely got a fact sheet just yesterday when they have already been discussing within the council, the RCA executive board. And the fact sheet is hardly a fact sheet. It's a page of just a few little points on there. So we were given a PowerPoint that was very brief, and we didn't have time to discuss like I wish we did. So basically, there's still some discussion within the RCA executive committee. I don't think it's heading to the RCTC executive committee yet. I'm not sure. I don't know if Councilmember White can give us any information on that, but I know that before it goes to any of the boards, like the RCTC board itself, it's still hammering out at the executive level. And they're looking at different ways of, saving money and giving you avenues of money coming in to allow us to keep purchasing the land purchases that we do. But I want more information because, I'm a little hesitant when you have one director for both agencies. And even though you have two separate commissions there, I'm still a little hesitant on that. So I want some more information, and I'll be coming back to you hopefully the next meeting with some more information, and we'll talk about even putting this on the agenda for discussion so we can kind of get some input. I can't give you much more than that right now, so it'd be way too premature to give any discussion until that meeting. And that might not even have enough information for you yet. So, I want to see numbers. I want to see what figures they're talking about. It's just kind of a very general, oh, we're going to be saving money. We're going to be having better avenues, better access to grants and so forth. But I haven't really seen any specifics. It's just kind of a package introduction right now. So we'll be looking at that, and I'll be trying to solicit some of your information about that. Originally, they were deciding whether they wanted to go under WRCOG or RCTC, and I guess between the two directors, they decided to go through RCTC instead of WRCOG. I'm not sure if that was mutual or really what's going on there. Some of the people on the boards, one of the board members last night were talking about maybe we should hear more from WRCOG and see what they have, kind of like an offer of what they can offer and how they can benefit. So I'm still a little bit, lost in the system right now because the board, I believe, has been left out of a lot of the discussion. So I expressed my concern about that last night. So we'll see, and hopefully the members here can give me more information that they're hearing from their end when we hopefully discuss this at our next meeting. Right? That's on there.
Very good.
And we do have a species of the month. It's the California Orcut grass. There you go.
Okay.
Can't forget the plants. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilor Lloyd White?
So I can fill you in a little bit on what I know with RCTC. That was going to be my report as well. We have, the executive board has discussed this in 2 meetings. The first meeting was last month. The second meeting was last week. In the first meeting, it was presented to us that RCA was reaching out to RCTC to consider taking over management of the board or of RCA, and the way you explained it is the way I understand it. 2 boards of commissioners and 1 management or 1 general manager. The executive board gave our executive manager or general manager the direction a month ago to come back with sort of an analysis to compare it, to look at ideas like, are there going to be some conflicts between lawsuits and legal issues? Are we going to save money or lose, or is it going to cost us more? There are going to be some costs going up for RCTC if this moves forward, hiring new staff to work through a transition period. It was not presented to the board as a whole until this last week. So both boards, the executive boards, have been doing all of this between them, and at our board it was presented only as a report from the general manager at the end, where she told the entire board that the executive board had given her direction to look into it, and we also gave her direction this week that we need more details, we need more numbers. So the executive board meetings for at least RCTC are public and they're on Zoom, and I think the RCA ones would be as well. So I would recommend that you listen from both sides, because I'm not even sure whether or not it was presented to you that RCA had come to RCTC, or whether it was presented, that's the way it was presented to us. So I think for us to communicate and make sure that we're not being told different stories by different boards is important. There's a lot of hesitation, at least at the executive board level, to do this because of possible costs and issues like that. But I also agree with you, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have 2 separate boards under 1 general manager. I don't know if that's done before, but that's all that that's most of what I think that's all that I know. Again, the executive board meetings, as far as I understand, are not closed session. So they are open to, because we do take public comments as well. And I guess that's all I had.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, give you an update. I mean, I attended the, Good Morning Beaumont breakfast, and there's a lot of new members in there. Hopefully, they stay around. I mean, on the Chamber of Commerce, and it's a good turnout. So my report is, I'll make it brief because I could, give you more lengthy report on SCAG. SCAG had just, approved and adopted the Connect SoCal. And that's a program that, they will, this program goes up to till 2045. That's the transportation investments. And the SCAG, secured up 638.6 billion in Southern California. So we have to be aggressive on this. There's a program that I'll be sharing to our city manager and to the council that this is this year 2020 to 2021 is the Sustainable Communities Program. What is that? It's a funding. It's more on the on the city having like a walking, biking program, and also promote traffic safety. And this will expand the communication that goes on the internet, the fiber optic, and they will fund this. I mean, the timing was so good. I mean, that came out, so I'm excited to communicating with Todd on this. And then how are we gonna obtain this? There's an application that I will be sending to our city in here to Todd. We could apply now till November 13 on this. So they will fund the all the projects and everything, but again, we need the general plan and the specific plan on this, so that will support everything. Then next to this is the RENA. What is RENA is the housing allocation on this. I mean, this is coming up within 45 days. And then I like to see the Go Human. What is Go Human is the back lanes, and they will be walking on the pedestrian friendly, what we're gonna have in here, and they will design that and they will fund that also on that. Now, that's the report on small report briefly on the SCAG, but I will jump in on the economic development update, if you don't mind. I mean, Todd on this. I mean, I know Kyle. Last meeting last week, Todd was not there. He got a new baby. I mean, that evening. So this committee created a good committee that they will take care of the technology, communication, the internet. We will be working together with the school district and the city, and we will coordinate with them and to enhance our communication, the connectivity, application here in the city. So this will be, Dr. Evan Brown is heading that, and then another Von Larson is heading that, and also Betty Ryder in there. And then I think Mike and me will be announced or designated as a quiet partner in there, so we know what's going on. We will watch what's going on that committee. Other than that, everybody excited that we will upgrade the city, and also working with the council of the Unified School. They're excited and we're excited. So looking forward on that. Other than that, do you have go ahead, Todd.
Thank you. One other thing I would add is the RFP has been drafted and has been placed out on the market for the next 30 days for our psychographic and retail target strategy. So we expect to see hopefully some proposals coming in within the next few weeks on that.
Wow, great. Thank you. City Treasurer report.
Thank you, Mr.
Gary?
Mayor.
Yeah.
It's going to be short because we spent a lot of time on the most important thing we covered at our Finance Audit Committee meeting, and that was the investment policy. And I appreciate the discussion tonight because it kind of followed on where we were yesterday. So we're taking those baby steps, as Councilperson Carroll has said. The other thing is, and I think it's good news to end on, we got a pretty good picture of the final budget for 2019-2020. And our general fund showed a surplus of about $8 million, which is really great. Of course, $5 million is a one-time deal from waste management. And there's a little bit of one-time in the sales tax, but still, we have a surplus of $8 million. And wastewater, which we were really concerned if we would be close to budget, probably a little under, looks like that budget will finish at about $350,000, $360,000 in the surplus. So a very good year to the city on managing it, to Todd and the rest of his staff. Great job.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk report. Steve.
No report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. City Attorney report. Mr. Pickett.
Yes, you have in the packet at item number 15, the list of pending litigation against the city of Beaumont. Again, this is lawsuits that have been filed against the city and also served on the city where there's liability exposure to the city. And we were down to one, the Aguirre matter, which is at the pretrial stage. But now, as you know from this evening and the report out from closed session authorizing us to defend the new matter, we now have two matters pending against the city, and the new one is Christian Lee versus the city of Beaumont, case number RIC 2003005, and that's at the very initial stages of the litigation, at the pleading stage, and we will keep the council posted on the status of that matter. I have nothing further to report this evening.
Very good. Thank you. City Manager report. Mr. Todd Pardon.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. So very exciting to be with you again. Mr. Melman, I have to advise you, there's a new sport I found. It's called hockey. And if you'll notice, the Dallas Stars are in what they call a Stanley Cup final. So I just advise you of that. So you might need to be entertained. So we can take care of that for you. So, and then, Mayor, I need to clarify, the baby is Kyle's, it wasn't mine. I was going to say.
So
congratulations to Kyle. Happy daddy with the second baby.
Oh, correction. Yeah. I mean, that's Kyle.
Yeah, Mandy would get mad if I brought home another baby.
We'll be in trouble, man.
Now, a puppy should be happy with, I think.
Oh, boy.
So, but, you know, one thing, there was a special day of honor for National Police Women's Day, which was on September 12th, just a couple days ago. And the day is dedicated to all police officers who are women. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information, historical information that a wise chief of police for Beaumont provided to me. The first police officer, female police officer, hired in the United States was in Chicago PD in 1891. And so a legitimate police officer, not a police matron, a police officer who actually had the full powers of a police officer. However, she was Canadian, believe it or not. So the first American-born female police officer was hired in 1910 by the Los Angeles PD. So LAPD in Southern California boasts the first American-born female full police officer. So our department, we're very proud of the female officers that we have in our department. We actually have 4 female officers that really represent 10% of our police force. So we're very proud of that fact, and we are very proud to be looking forward to recruiting more female officers to our force. So anyway, just wanted to congratulate them and thank them for their service and the barriers that they're breaking in our society. So with that does conclude my report to City Council.
Very good. Hey, council, future agenda items, any? Okay, if not, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just that RCA thing that I had mentioned. So I'll be working with Todd to see when I get enough information to put it on the agenda. So I don't know if it's going to be the next meeting or the meeting after, but I do want to be able to discuss it amongst us when I get more information. So
Very good.
thank you.
Get noted. Okay, Council Carroll.
Thank you.
There you go.
Could we, either in the city manager report for the next meeting or on the agenda, get an update on Title 22 water and how that process for the permit, et cetera, is moving through?
Actually, if I could provide a quick recap on our sewer plant. We actually had the sewer plant on and fully functional now, and we should be in the zone of producing Title 22 water within the next couple weeks. So our RO system is now being turned on. MBR is fully on, and we have received the first draft of our wastewater discharge permit. So we are looking at that. So we're currently operating under the guidelines of the prior or the existing soon to expire permit. So we do know with the new permit coming up that there's going to be a significant amount of compliance and oversight that we're going to have to deploy, which will be an additional operational level that we have. But anyway, so we're there. We did provide a report to the board last Friday at their meeting and informed them that we were complete, that we were operating, and the board congratulated the city and city council for bringing this project together. So as you like to say, we got the sewer plant built from scratch faster than we got the general plan update complete.
Yeah,
So,
wow,
so
that's good.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Our next meeting will be October 6, 2020, and we will adjourn this on 8:47.
So, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor,
hold on.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, are we going back into closed session?
Yes, that's our schedule, yes.
Okay, so we're going to be going back into closed session on item number 2, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, title City Manager, and then conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representatives Lloyd White and Mike Laura, unrepresented employees, City Manager. And those are the only 2 items, and we will report out. Well, I can tell you right now, there won't be any reportable action given the nature of those matters coming out of that closed session, but we will provide that report out to the city clerk.
Very good, John. Thank you. Final adjournment will be 8:48.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, thank you.